Everyone's roles in 2025 are different than what they were in 24. It might be a guy, he's now a senior, he's in a leadership role. He was a red shirt last year, now he's going to play a lot, whatever it might be. And we want everybody to embrace those roles and embrace those expectations.
Welcome onto the sideline, everybody. I am Matt Dowell, joined alongside Jared Parker once again. Jared, how's it going, man? I'm in a good mood today. How about you?
I'm in a good mood. It's feeling cool for once in summer. We're back.
Yes, Jared, and that is why I'm in a good mood, because everyone, I am sick of sweating all the time. The famously hot Columbia has that nickname for a reason, and we are always famously hot. And so it is cool. The air is crisp. Jared, I feel it coming. I feel the football, the pumpkins, all of that, all that's on the horizon. Football weather, and it's probably going to get hot again.
Of course.
It's only August, the beginning of August, so I'm not going to be fooled by the cool air, but I am enjoying it. I like that I can walk my dog and not be, drowning in sweat. So I am in a great mood today. And also, we have a lot to talk about on this show because it's been an eventful few days for us. We're talking a lot about Gamecock football, of course, and then South Carolina athletics today announcing their Hall of Fame class for 2025. So we will talk about that at the end of the show, but we're also going to start the show with another Hall of Famer, and that's at the NFL level, Jared, because Sterling Sharpe found himself and now finds himself in the NFL Hall of Fame, an elite group. We were talking before we started the show. The NFL Hall of Fame feels like maybe the hardest one to get into. Yeah. It's so hard. I mean, some of these great players still are not in because the criteria, the voting, all of that is just so elite, but Sterling Sharpe is in the NFL Hall of Fame, and Jared, the first Gamecock to ever get there. That is huge. So obviously he was a great college player, an elite NFL player, and just what a cool weekend for Sterling.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about how hard it is to get into the NFL Hall of Fame, I mean, Sterling had 7 great years. Maybe the longevity wasn't there, but this is a guy who won an NFL Triple Crown. Yeah. Only 5 people have done that in the Super Bowl era, including the first one doing that to be Jerry Rice. So you're in a class of guys like Jerry Rice that have done this, and you could say it was a bit overdue, but it was just a really awesome moment to see that for him. Became the first pair of brothers in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. First Gamecock in the Hall of Fame. Just the history of his career. It's awesome to see someone who maybe at his peak was one of the best receivers in NFL history get his flowers.
Yeah, it was awesome to watch. And we saw him last week at Birdies with Beamer. And like the accolades and like the standing ovations and applauses were already happening at the golf club last week. So that was fun. And I know it's been an eventful few days for him, and the last week has been great for Sterling. But congratulations to Sterling Sharpe, because that is a monumental achievement and something that is so well deserved. But let's get into Gamecock football, because we have had a busy few days, because Jared, everyone, it is here. College football is here. We had a local media day last Thursday that we'll get into here in a little bit. Practice got underway on Friday, so we're going to give you some of our practice observations. But first, today, Jared, the coaches poll came out, the first preseason coaches poll. And of course, that's with the USA Today, where the coaches give us their rankings and where they think everybody falls in the preseason, which I sometimes think is a little more interesting than, the media members and the AP poll and things like that. Because the coaches, you get an idea of where they think everybody is falling. And Jared, South Carolina in this preseason coaches poll, number 13, which I think that's a fair place to put them in the top 15. And I think 13 is a good spot.
Yeah, I think I was not expecting them to be placed so high. I was expecting a little bit more of the 16, 17 range, only simply because of how last season ended going into this year. But I think, from the SEC polls, everyone was really high on LaNorris Sellers. Yeah. It seems like coming back as a second-year starter after the year he had last year. And it seems like the coaches kind of reflect that sentiment with this placement at 13, but I do think it's fair. I was just a little surprised to see them acknowledge the Gamecocks at that level.
Yeah, Texas #1, which Texas is getting a lot of preseason hype. They were picked to win the SEC as well. Clemson is at number 6. If you're wanting some rivalry talk, Clemson's at number 6, which I actually thought maybe they would be in the top 5 just with the way the conversations have been happening. But South Carolina, number 13 in the coaches poll, and we'll see where they fall in the preseason AP poll in the coming days. But I think it's a good spot to start with. Practice underway on Friday morning for the Gamecocks, and of course that will continue until the first game, on August 31st down in Atlanta. But the way this works, Jared, we do get to see South Carolina through this fall camp and kind of get us literally on the sideline. That's what our podcast is called. We get to go on the sideline at practice, but it's not very long. We get about 15 to 20 minutes, just a few times during this fall camp to, get some film, get some video of the guys and see, just what the Gamecocks are looking like. So, Jared, you were out there on Friday morning. It's an early start for us when it's practice days, but Friday morning, and you also went on Saturday. So you got to see the Gamecocks for a couple of days. What were some of the things that you noticed in that brief time that you got to watch them?
I mean, one thing that really stood out to me was the defensive line. And this was partly because we got to see them very up close. Like where we shoot from, they came right there and they were pretty much like in our grill doing their drills. But the communication I heard there, the accountability, those guys, like the expectation of a good season, you can hear it because they're not, ragging on each other. But they're not letting any lazy reps go by. There are no lazy reps on that team. And if there was one that maybe slipped out, you could hear, some of the leaders on that team being, quicker, go quicker, get your hands up. Like they were holding each other accountable. And for a D-line that, did pretty well last season and has some expectations for this season, I was very impressed with that level of communication and accountability I saw between each other.
I got to speak with Shane Beamer one-on-one, and we'll actually let you guys hear and see that interview here in just a little bit. But one thing he was saying is that those first few days of camp, people are going to make mistakes. You're going to see things. It's, you got to give them a little bit of grace in that sense. But the one thing he said that is a non-negotiable is the attitude and the intensity and the physicality. So that is what you were seeing right away. Absolutely. That tone that was set from the beginning. But it is cool to see them up close and personal like that. And, we get to go on the sidelines and film the games as well during the season. But you also don't realize how small you are until you are up against the D-line of an SEC
Especially
football
when a play is coming to the sideline. You don't realize how quick those guys move until a play is coming your way and you got to bail. It is frightening.
I do recommend if you can ever see these guys, get up close to them like that. They are just at all levels. That's why I'm like, you guys got to respect these players at all levels because the talent and everything is just really unbelievable to watch when you are next to it. And you're like, ooh, okay. They are very, very good.
Hearing those pads crash.
Yeah, hearing the pads crash. The big news, of course, these first couple of days of Gamecock practice has been Rahsul Faison. And I know that has been a conversation, and I'm going to get into my frustrations here in a minute, Jared, because I think this situation has been so poorly handled by the NCAA. But Faison was at practice day 2. He was not there on the first day, but you got to see him. What was the vibe like with Faison now that he is cleared to practice with the Gamecocks?
Well, obviously, the first thing we did on day 2 when we didn't see him day 1, every camera was over at him. And I think he knew. You have to know. You have to know when the cameras are on you, especially knowing that we were expecting to see you day 1 and did not. But he looked very cool, calm, collected. He was vibing to the music. He was, high fives with the coaches and the team. He looked sharp in the drills, looked like a running back that you expect to see a lot of. So it doesn't look like, at least from the outside looking in, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot that's Faison at the moment.
And that's good because this has been a tough process, I think, for everybody. And here's my frustration because this whole thing with Faison, this is why people get frustrated with the NCAA because this is not fair to this kid to have him sit and wait around like, am I going to play? Am I going to get cleared? Yeah. It's not fair to the Gamecocks of, are we going to have this guy? He's going to be a key piece to this running back room, which, by the way, he still is not cleared to play the season. He's only cleared to practice, which this is when I get frustrated because A, why has this taken so long?
I mean, what,
B,
26 days to the season
crazy.
when this releases?
It's this month. Their first game is this month. Second of all, you have time to clear him for practice, but you don't have 5 more minutes to clear him for the season. And also, what's he practicing for?
Right.
Why is he practicing if we don't even know if he's going to play or not? It's not fair to Faison. It's not fair to the Gamecocks. And again, this is why people get frustrated with the NCAA and their leadership, because it's like, just make a decision. That's your job. And do right by these kids. Like, it's not fair to him as a player to sit and play this waiting game. I mean, it's just been a mess. And I'm glad they cleared him to practice. But also, if you're clearing him to practice, that clearly means that you think he should play, because what's the point? So just go ahead and clear him. And that's my soapbox moment for the day, because these are just the moments when I don't understand the process and the system. And I'm going to stop at that, okay? But that's all I got to say on that. Now, before Friday got underway, Friday morning to practice, we did have a local media day here in Columbia, which is great because I really have always loved how Gamecock Athletics really rewards local media in all sports. We do get such great access to all of these teams. You know, you've seen coaches come on our podcast before, great alums on our podcast, and hopefully we'll get more of them as our podcast continues to grow. But they really do treat us well. And this local media, incredible. And this local media day is a lot of fun. And just so you guys know how this works, every single Gamecock is made available to us on this day. So it's always the day before the first day of practice when the players technically report for camp. And the way it works, it's a few hours. It's a good bit of time with the Gamecocks. It's held over at the Spurrier Indoor Practice Facility. Beamer starts it off with a formal press conference. So he'll do 30 straight minutes of a press conference. And a lot of you guys have probably watched that press conference by now if you are a diehard Gamecock fan. And then after that, the coordinators and the assistant coaches will all be made available to us. During that time, Shane Beamer is doing one-on-ones with all of the local TV stations here in South Carolina. So it's the Columbia stations, including us at Watch Fox, but also, you know, some of the Charleston stations, Greenville stations come down, and he takes time to talk to all of us one-on-one, which is really, really great. And we have 5 minutes with Beamer. It's a strict time. You know, you got 5 minutes to get your questions in. So for me, I've got about 7 or 8 questions planned, and you got to have the priorities because you got someone behind Beamer giving you the cue of 2 minute, 1 minute, wrap it up. And, you know, we respect that time, and we really, really appreciate him taking the time to do that. It really adds a lot to our newscast and our sports shows and all of that. And then after Beamer is done with the one-on-ones, he gets to go home, you know, drink some water because it's a lot of talking with all of us and answering a lot of questions. And then every single player is made available to us for, what was it, like 20, 30 minutes?
About half an hour.
About half an hour each, which is great. So every single offensive player, every single defensive player, and every single special teams player. So it's a fun day and it's a lot. But before we talk about what you learned from the players, let's let everyone hear that one-on-one with Shane Beamer. And this one-on-one with Beamer was shot for broadcast. So if you watched Watch Fox last week, you got to see this interview. You know, I'm dressed very formally. I'm in my suit and my tie. And so this was shot for that broadcast, but we are going to let you guys hear it if you're listening to us on our audio platforms. If you're watching us on YouTube, here is my one-on-one with Shane Beamer the day before camp got underway. Shane, I've covered a lot of Gamecock football seasons, and the excitement and the hype for this one feels different to me, looking in from the outside in. You're on the inside. Does it feel different to you?
It does. It's because of the expectations our guys have. There's no question about it. They excited about what we did in 24, but there's a great hunger to take things even farther in 25, and they've had that mentality since 25, since we came back in January. So there's absolutely great excitement inside our building, and I feel the same thing outside the building as well. The number of people that have come up to me throughout the state, region, this summer, leading into the season, it's pretty evident how much excitement there is about Gamecock football.
And it's a fun place to be, I think, to going into a new season. And I was talking to Clayton about this on Monday, especially in regards to LaNorris and Dylan Stewart in his case, the concept of the next season. When you're a freshman and you're new and you put on this great season and everyone's like, wow, you're amazing. Yeah. And then the next season comes around and everyone's looking at you like, okay, do it again and do it better and do it with all of us watching now. How do you get your players ready for all of that pressure that they now have to deal with as the guys of the team?
Yeah, it's just kind of the next step. You want guys that want to embrace that, and at the end of the day, you want their the expectations in our building and within themselves to be higher than what anybody has on the outside. But certainly we've got a bunch of really good players, and everyone's roles in 2025 are different than what they were in 24. It might be a guy, he's now a senior. He's in a leadership role. He was a red shirt last year. Now he's going to play a lot, whatever it might be. And we want everybody to embrace those roles and embrace those expectations.
As we get ready for a new season, LaNorris and Dylan are the ones that everybody's talking about, but are there any new or newer faces that you're excited for everyone to see this season?
Yeah, a lot, and I'm not trying to dodge the question, but there really are, and we talked about that this morning and as a staff in our staff meeting, just that we lost a lot off the 24 team, and I said this in a staff meeting this morning. I'm really excited for you guys and people that follow Gamecock football to kind of see some of these other guys that we've been seeing since January. But it's a talented group of guys that are ready to take the next step, and we've recruited well, we've developed well, we've brought in some really good players that transferred in, and those guys have a great way about them, and looking forward to working with them this year.
When the countdown is on to game one and these first few days of practice, what tone do you want set in these first few days?
Really just the mentality of how we want to play in practice, the physicality that we want to play with, the effort that we want to play with. It's the schemes will come. It's day one, day two, day three. We know there'll be mistakes that are made, but some of the non-negotiables are just the effort that we play with and the physicality and the toughness. And that's what we'll talk about in the team meeting the night before the first practice, is just examples of how we play around here and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And, you get that foundation kind of laid in the initial days, everything else will come.
Now that you've been with South Carolina for a while, what do you know now about coaching, especially this program that maybe you didn't know your first year?
Great question. I really feel like I had a pretty good understanding of what it was going to be like. I'd probably just say, even growing up the son of a head coach, probably didn't understand the amount of things that come across your desk that have nothing to do with coaching, that as the head coach come on your desk. And then just being, having an understanding of, when you're the head football coach, how many people really truly are looking to you for leadership and direction. That obviously, but when you really think about it, all the coaches, staff, players, people that work in our football facility, and they're all looking to you. It's a big responsibility, and that's something that has really, the magnitude of that has really grown for sure, and helped me understand that and whatnot. But that'd probably be the biggest thing, is a number of things that have nothing to do with actually. That's why I love practice so much. I could actually just coach football, because when throughout the day and throughout the year, there's so much other stuff that comes across your desk.
Well, Shane, we're really, really excited for the new season. I know you're excited too, and the countdown's on, man.
Yep, can't wait. Thank you, guys.
Great talking with Shane Beamer. He does a good job too of getting to know us, and making sure he knows all the media members' names. It's a very personable, and I think a very positive relationship between Beamer and the media, which you don't always get, just
I don't see
in general.
coaches do that often.
Yeah,
being able to rattle off media names like that. It's very impressive for me to watch Shane do that.
Yeah, it's cool, and it makes us all, feel part of the journey. And there's a lot of respect there between the coaching staff, the Gamecocks, and us. And so it's cool. It's a two-way street, and we try and make sure that it's done very well and done very professionally. But thank you again to Gamecock Athletics and Shane Beamer for doing those one-on-ones, because he doesn't have to. We're going to take a timeout here on South Carolina Sideline. We told you about how all the players are available on this day too. Jared was in charge of that on our local media day, so he's going to give you the rundown and the breakdown of what he learned from the Gamecock players ahead of this practice right after this. So local media day is great. It can be chaotic. There's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts, but every coordinator, assistant coach, and player is made available to us. Jared, that was kind of your duty that day, was to go around. You got your tripod and your camera. You can't get to everybody because you only have so much time, but you did get to talk to a good bit of the players and the coordinators. What were some of the things that you learned and some of the things that stood out to you from when you got to talk to the Gamecocks?
Well, among the wide receiver group specifically, that's the group that stood out to me. I think they're feeling very confident because they can tell the trust Shane Beamer has in them. Earlier in the press conference, Beamer did mention he thinks they have the potential to be one of the best wide receiver groups in the nation. And the thing about that group, they didn't bring any transfers in. So that was something that both among the recruits and the returners, that resonated deeply with them. That's something they all mentioned was, hey, he didn't bring in transfers. He believes in the guys that were in the room and that he recruited to be in the room. And then also just the humility among the guys. I mean, Nick Harbor was talking about him learning stuff from the guys that just got there in summer. And I'm like, well, you know, you're a year 3 guy. You're looking to have a big role. You kind of know the ropes, but the fact that he was telling me what he learned from other guys, you know, the different styles of wide receivers was very impressive. And then LaNorris Sellers, of course, he loves the group and he has his brother there. He told me he's the hardest on his brother, which obviously is expected.
What an interesting dynamic too, to have a big brother and little brother on the same team, and then the big brother's the star of the team, and then you know the little brother is a freshman, so he's the rookie, he's the newbie. And how are they gonna handle that dynamic? Because then there's also the brotherly love. You want to look out for your little brother. So that'll be something we follow throughout the season. But really happy to have multiple Sellers on this team. But you talked about LaNorris, and you did get to speak with him at Local Media Day. So here is some of what LaNorris had to say about leading this team into what may be a big Heisman-winning season for LaNorris. Here is LaNorris Sellers.
Yeah, I think it's just, everybody dreams of it once they're younger, playing on TV, playing in SEC on the national televised game, stuff like that. So, I'm just glad I'm able to do it. I know you're going to be proud of me. So, yeah, just being more polished, I'll say, anticipation, footwork, just being more consistent from that point of view. Mastering the system, getting to know the guys and all that. So.
LaNorris Sellers, we heard him at SEC Media Day say he actually would rather play with less hype and, less all that, but he's like, that's not a possibility this season, that this is just the way it is, and what he's got to deal with, but he still is just so chill. Like, he's just so cool, calm, and collected all the time. Was there anything else that stood out to you from the players before we move on to the next segment?
Just defensively, obviously we know the Gamecocks have lost a bunch of talent to the NFL, which is a good thing. That's a good thing if you're losing talent to the NFL, because it means you're doing something right. But obviously you've got to replace it. And they told us, they heard the noise about them losing talent, but they wanted us to know, specifically Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy spoke with him, and he said, we're working just as hard as those guys before. We hear the noise, and all we can do is watch them play. That's another thing, too. Everyone was like, you just got to watch this week 1 against Virginia Tech.
Yeah, and I think, when we talked to Clayton White at Birdies with Beamer, he was saying that these guys are all going to be new to fans and, outsiders who maybe don't know them. But for them, they knew what last season's senior class and that class, how good they were. And they knew they were going to lose a lot of them to the NFL when that time came. So they've actually been preparing for this for a couple of years. And so they're like, it might be new to us. It might be new to everyone, at home watching. But for the staff, they were ready for this moment. And he said he's very, very excited for everyone to get to see this defense because they have been preparing. Will they be as good as last year? That's a wait and see game, because that class was so experienced and so talented. Experience matters a lot in college sports, everybody. I feel like we don't talk enough about that across all sports, but Clayton did say that they have been preparing for this, which I thought was an interesting nugget, because I think sometimes we forget the process of all of this.
I almost buried the lead. Dylan Stewart told me he'd be playing linebacker this year as well. Yeah, he's going to be on the line and playing linebacker. Well, I did bury the lead, actually. But yes, that's also something important.
That is important. Dylan Stewart, of course, looking forward to having a big season. But we're going to take another break here on South Carolina Sideline. One more timeout for us. The Gamecock Athletics Hall of Fame being announced today. Another great class, including some absolute superstars going into the Hall of Fame. So we started our show with the Hall of Fame. We'll wrap up with the Hall of Fame right after this. Well, South Carolina Athletics has so many legends across so many sports. And one thing that I think is cool is that every October they induct a new Hall of Fame class. It's the Gamecock Athletics Hall of Fame. There's a lot of Hall of Fames in South Carolina, and so sometimes it can be confusing on which one is which, but this is the Gamecock Athletics Hall of Fame class of 2025. We filmed this on a Monday, so it was announced today. And man, this is an elite class this year. Truly elite. Starting off, A'ja Wilson. I think we all know who that is. A'ja Wilson, of course, a 3-time SEC Player of the Year, a Naismith winner, national champion with the Gamecock women's basketball team, just an icon really in all of basketball, but especially here, has a statue, out front of the CLA, but Asia will officially be going into the Hall of Fame this year. We have Brandon Holko from men's diving, Akram Mahmoud from men's swimming, Paul Jubb from men's tennis, who of course also is a national champion, an individual national champion as well. So he won the whole thing a few years ago. He's played at Wimbledon a few times now. So really cool to see Paul Jubb going into the Hall of Fame. Molly Patton from women's soccer, and Natasha Hastings from women's track and field, who of course is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. And Asia's also an Olympic gold medalist. So that is, those are some heavy hitters.
Yeah, that's a heavy class. I mean, geez, the names on that one.
What's crazy for me, Jared, is I've covered the Hall of Fame many times, and they will be inducted October 23rd, and they'll also be honored at the Alabama game on October 25th at halftime. So that class will be here in October, so that'll be a special weekend for them. But what's crazy to me, I've been in Columbia for 9 years. I started covering South Carolina athletics when A'ja Wilson was going into her junior season, which is the season that she won a national championship. So I'm looking at this list, I'm like, I've covered some of these people. We're getting to the point where I'm like, I have covered some of these athletes. Paul Jubb winning a national championship was really, really special a few seasons ago because he was really one of the first individual athletes to, really, especially in tennis, to put Gamecocks on the map like that. And they've really excelled since then. The men's tennis team has been really, really successful since then. You have Natasha Hastings, who is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. I mean, this is an amazing class. But when I saw that list, I was like, oh man, we're getting to some of the people that I covered, when I first got here to Columbia. But of course, A'ja will be the standout. And the Hall of Fame ceremony is always a lot of fun. It's always good vibes. It's very, very special. And I know this is an elite class. All 6 of those athletes are incredible. So I'm excited for them to go into the Hall of Fame in October.
I'm excited to see that too. I've never been to an actual Hall of Fame
cool.
anything myself. So I think this will be my first time actually attending one. So I can't wait to see it. Obviously got to see A'ja Wilson's jersey retirement.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be another moment like that where it's just really special for everyone and all the families involved.
It's just, man, it's really amazing when you think of, just Sterling Sharpe and what he did, and all of the Hall of Fame classes that they had. Every single one is always amazing, but this list is elite. I mean, it really is incredible the amount of talent that Gamecock Athletics continues to produce in all sports. I mean, you got women's basketball, track and field, you have women's soccer, you have tennis, you have swimming and diving, all in this list. And they always make sure to, make sure that the Hall of Fame class is inclusive of all of their sports to represent all of Gamecock Athletics. So excited for October. Again, October 23rd is when they'll be inducted, and they'll be honored at the halftime of the Alabama game, which is here in Columbia this year. Ooh, exciting, on October 25th. And speaking of that, it's a good segue because, Jared, Thursday, we got a heavy hitter here on our podcast. We talked about A'ja Wilson, where, we get a really up close and personal look at what her life has been like, because her dad, Rahsul Wilson, is joining the podcast. We filmed it last week. It's an amazing conversation with Rahsul. You want to talk about behind the scenes information about A'ja Wilson? I mean, nobody better to get that information than her father. So Rahsul joined our podcast. That episode comes out on Thursday. It is fantastic. I covered A'ja Wilson, Jared, and I learned so many things about her and her life and, the life of the Wilson family in general that I did not know. He gave a lot of really good nuggets, and we didn't even get to everything. So we're hoping he comes back again.
That would be awesome.
To spill some more behind the scenes secrets. But the Rahsul Wilson interview airs on Thursday. It'll be posted on YouTube, here on your audio platforms, the same channel that you get. But we are very, very excited for you guys to see that interview with Rahsul Wilson. I love the Wilson family, Rahsul, Eva, A'ja, everybody. They're just unbelievable, and they're so honest and open. And that's what I've always loved about them, is they tell you, what they think and how they're feeling, and it's genuine, it's authentic, and that's exactly what this Rahsul interview is. So I'm really, really excited for everyone to hear it.
Yeah, I'm glad to be in here so I could get the sneak peek. I already watched it myself.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh no, Jared's he's on the weekend too. He's our weekend sports anchor, so he's sneaking around here on the weekend.
I am.
And you got to meet him.
I couldn't wait.
You got to meet him. Rahsul Wilson is 6'8", you guys. So if you're wondering where A'ja gets her height from, it is her dad. But it's a great interview, and I can't wait for you all to see it and hear it on on Thursday. Anything else you guys, Jared, that you want to add to our show?
I think we touched base on everything.
Good show.
Today.
This was a fun one. I really enjoyed it. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. Again, you can get us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, all that good stuff. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow us. We love doing this podcast. We hope you're enjoying it, and we're enjoying watching it grow. And with the football season and basketball season all approaching, we're excited to get into the latest topics and have even more A-list guests here on our podcast. He's Jared Parker. I'm Matt Dowell. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on Thursday for the Roscoe Wilson interview here on South Carolina Sideline.